Well, good morning, everyone.
Good
Hi,
morning.
everyone. I'm
Good
Kathy
morning.
Tarchioni. That's Gaetan. That's Roman. And our special guests today are Paula Powell and Michelle Anderson. They're
Oh,
actually reversed. Paula is on the right and Michelle is on the left.
good morning.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And
The-
let me say that Paula and Michelle are from the city of El Paso Animal Services in Texas, and they have a wonderful program that we're really excited for you guys to hear about. Go ahead, Gaetan.
Can you share with us what this fabulous program is about?
Well, with with the COVID-19 response, a lot of places were closing down. We
Mhm.
had a stay home, work safe order put in here in El Paso, but we still had animals. We still had pets in our shelter, dogs mostly, and some cats. And we put together a emergency plan to help us not only control the intake that was coming into the shelter, but also to handle any public safety, but also to get animals in homes. And so we opened up a foster program where we actually delivered the dogs safely using our PPE um, to community members, and it was like an amazing turnout. I'm like, um, I have goosebumps because our community really came forth for us. We had on the first day we had over 400 people sign up
Whoa.
fosters, and granted we had a lot of animals in the shelter at that time, around 600, and we were able to get out a lot. Over 1,250 animals right now today are in homes in El Paso community in foster programs.
Kudos. Yay. Yay.
It's been amazing, and we're still delivering every day. I saw them when I came in this morning, all in their PPE, cleaning the vehicles and loading up more dogs. And so we're still delivering to homes, um, and we have fosters. We even have adopters, and we're also doing starting next week. We're starting with and Michelle will do probably another video, but she does an amazing job. We're starting vaccinating. We're going to these homes with our teams and doing that safely to make sure that we also control disease in the community. It's just been amazing to see how El Paso community came forth to basically get the pets out of the shelter. We were really worried that when everything closed down, that all the dogs that we had here were just going to stay here until everything opened back up again. And so we had to come up with something because it's not fair. It's not fair to keep a dog at the shelter that long. So this team that I have, the animal protection officers, our vet techs, animal care attendants, even clerks, all switched around a little bit about what they were doing for the animals in our care, and that to me was heartwarming as well. The team here at El Paso Animal Services, they didn't care about their job description. They just cared about the dogs and cats that we have here and ensuring that they were cared for. And we got different people delivering. We're doing it safely, and the community is coming up big for us right now, and we're so excited about that.
Roman, I know you're going to ask some questions, but first I want to ask, why is it so important? Why is it great to foster? What's the difference to a dog being in a foster home? I mean, I know that it's kind of obvious, but to you, when you explain that, it's so much better to be in a foster home.
It's so much better than I'm being honest with you, being in a dog run here at the shelter where animals are coming in that we don't know the history from, and to be in a home where you get the love, the care, the attention that you deserve. And also right now our fosters are helping people. They're actually helping people get through this stay home work safe order that we have in El Paso. They're helping people get through that, and they're actually giving as much as they're getting, and that's just the amazing part of foster.
So that's kind of the good news of coronavirus.
Yeah.
really, is that these dogs are getting put into foster homes, which is wonderful. Do you think, let's show the video that you created to show people what it is that you're actually doing, which I think is marvelous. So let's do this. Ah, that's great. That's great. Did you do that, Michelle? That video?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
very good.
Followed some of our officers as they were doing deliveries. Went to a few different houses, and I mean, it's been a change for a lot of people, especially here at the shelter, but also our community too. They weren't really sure what we were doing either, but I think everyone's been on board because this is a contactless delivery. Everyone's a little bit worried and scared to come into contact with people they don't know. So implementing this new protocol for us has really helped not only our staff stay safe, but also our community.
Well, having been a person that has foster homed, I had my dog right now. He's almost 14. His name is Charlie, and he was one of those dogs from hell that you never thought anybody would ever adopt him. But he started out as a foster, and like you, Paula, he ended up being with me for all these years now. It's hard to give up a foster dog, so any program that's for fosters is really great. Okay, Roman. You've got a number of questions. Go ahead.
I have the first question. What are some changes you implemented during the pandemic in your shelter?
So the first thing that we did was we actually closed to the public. Before our stay home work safe order was put in, we were open for curbside adoptions and fosters. That was the first step. And that was where we could still stay safe, but people could come to the shelter after finding an animal on our website that they would like to adopt or foster. They could come to the shelter and we would take it out. That was the first step. But then the order came in, and that's when we came up with a plan that we would do the delivery service. We do not have any intake. Our officers are only responding to emergencies, sick animals, cruelty cases, and also aggressive animals. Public safety is still a concern for us. So people are walking and see aggressive animals, of course they can call and our officers will respond. And so our intake now is like 9 or 10 per day, when it used to be like 100 per day. But our outcomes with our fosters is huge, with over 1,250, and even some of those have turned into adoptions because they were they were foster fails after they fell in love. I know one of them had fostered the dog less than 24 hours and said, "Hey, I want to adopt," and I thought that was so cool.
We're not going to be mad about it.
No.
Yeah, right.
So I want to mention that Paula is the director of Animal Services in El Paso, and you guys have increased since you took office from 68% life release to 86% life release. And don't get confused with the numbers, guys, because your shelter takes in 27,000 dogs per year. Okay. It's not New York City. It's a small town, kind of, sort of, right?
Yeah.
So my next question would be, what is your experience that you learned through that process, and how can other shelters benefit from what you have learned in that crazy short period of time?
Well, what we've experienced is what we've talked about, and the community. The community is we've been saying it all along here in El Paso as we've been trying to reach what we call no kill status. The community has to be part of that solution. And we were continuing to say it, but now we can see results from that. We can show that and demonstrate how the community is the solution to this. The community is going to help us get to that goal. And just the change in how we operate with our intake, how the foster program is enhanced in the delivery, and how we do things is probably going to change moving forward, because we are going to embrace our El Paso community that's come through for us during this time. They're going to continue because we know El Paso loves their dogs. They love their cats. The majority do, and they care. And we have got to bring them into the mix a little bit more than we were prior to this.
Very good. So you're talking about intertwining. I'm sorry, I got excited there about intertwining and bringing the fosters connected directly to the shelter so that you know exactly what's going on, how the dogs are doing, how great they are. And would you then allow them to adopt from their home, from the foster home?
In fact, that's part of our plan right now during COVID response is next week when they do vaccines, they're getting their first little education program. It's going to be online on how they can actually adopt out their pet that they're fostering from their home.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Yay.
Well, that fits best to my next question, because I recognize that we have a major shifting the last couple of years from the rescues having fosters and the rescues taking dogs out of a shelter, and then they distribute it to the fosters, and then the fosters are the in-between / parking lot usually, but now we kind of implement more training skills to these fosters, so they actively are part of their rehabilitation and reintegration into the system. And now I like the idea that the shelter actually steps up, and actually Austin Shelter started that back in couple of years back, implementing fosters into the adoption system and put them in that position of getting educated, implementing protocols, and have a whole list of information that have to go through before they actually take in the dogs, but also a huge implementing of let's say volunteers into that system.
Yes.
So you have the full-time personnel in the shelter, then you have the volunteers who are now in the background. We don't see them, but they're actively reinforcing. And then you have the foster system that suddenly becomes the value of the system.
Yep.
And
Yes.
how do you think is what's gonna happen? And I'm not poking around, but as a behaviorist, my concern is what happens after everything comes back to normal-ish.
It'll never be normal again.
Yeah.
I don't think it will ever be normal again. And obviously there's a reason why this is happening. So I'm talking for you. I'm sorry. I'm going to shut.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was going to zip my lip here. I just get so enthusiastic about it because the foster homes, you're absolutely right, Roman. That's where the real key is. That's where you can give all the love and affection that you want in a shelter, but it's mostly about cleaning and feeding. It's not about giving the attention. You have volunteers that come in and they will do that once a week, once a day, once a month. But when they're in a foster home, that gives the dog to have some kind of normalcy where they can feel that they are being loved. And even though they may be going to another home, they're getting prepared to be a good dog. They're all good dogs, but a really good boy or a good girl.
Definitely.
So again, this is your show, and I'm butting in.
Michelle can kind of expand on that with the community and the foster program and the education program, because we are still constantly working on that. You want to go ahead?
And we're trying to figure out how we are going to change everything as we're moving forward, because even before the pandemic kind of hit El Paso, we were sending about 700 to 800 animals they were in foster care already, about average a month. So we already had a pretty large foster base beforehand. So I think this kind of forced us to figure out new ways to be a little bit more innovative, to work smarter, not harder, implement new ways to train our fosters to be, superhero foster parents. So we've implemented some new training for our fosters, offer them more services and support to help them get their pet to become an awesome adoptable pet. And now we're going to be transitioning them into, being adoption counselors and helping them find those foster pets a forever home. We're working on how we can, teach them how to market their foster pet and all of that. These are things that we didn't really have established beforehand. It was kind of more of a one-on-one kind of thing. If someone reached out and asked for it, of course we were giving them the support and resources, but it wasn't, consistent across the board. So I think that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. And I think that's just going to continue, even if we do get cut on a semi-regular schedule, if that ever happens again. But I think this has really showed us what we can do, and pushed us to implement some new things that we were just, with day-to-day shelter life, it's kind of hard to implement some new things. This kind of gave us the push to do it. So
Thank you so much. This is so important because, I started my career basically as a foster trainer for large breed in the East Coast, and I worked with several national rescues. So what I saw there was a lack of support. I was basically on my own. I got just a dog delivered, and I had to figure out myself everything. I would not be okay with what I received as support. I just add my pockets, my food, and my improvements into that equation. Spend more money on the foster dogs than I spend on my own dogs.
right.
I really appreciate you guys openly, from a foster perspective, how much you changed that. You could a paradigm shift from a foster who is being kind of like the parking into a foster who is actively member into that rescue effort. So if we talk about 100% no kill, and I put that in brackets because there is no such, it's a fiction, no kill, because there are medical issues and there are, neurological issues that you cannot survive. But the idea of no kill shelter is that using all possible resources to release that pressure of that shelter, which is a temporary condition, into a longer term condition, which is a foster, into the final destination, which is the adopter, and that makes it a successful system. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a suggestion to you, and I'll clarify it as to why I can make a suggestion. I think I told you that I used to run a shelter in Illinois, so I know that side of it. But I also know the side of the foster. I'm in Arizona now, but a year ago I was in Arkansas, and I lived in 2005. The shelter there was a kill shelter. And a group of us, meaning people like me, the crazy pet ladies, we started forming little mini foster groups. And then every time it came time to the day when they were going to euthanize the dogs, we would scramble down there and we would gather the dogs up and get them out. Sometimes I had 10, 12 dogs in my home just to get them out of the shelter. And then we found foster homes for them. So eventually what we did is we formed little groups of the fosters, trained them ourselves, and then said, okay, one leader from each group is going to go take the dogs out, and then we would distribute them. And then so now we had a whole system going, and before you knew it, we had a foster system. We were able to convince the shelter that was no kill to go to a no kill foster, so that before the dogs were euthanized, they were automatically shipped out. Eventually, we finally got them to be a no-kill altogether. And the foster care system is what really supported them in the community from a donation standpoint, too.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
So just think of that as well, because now you've got a dog in your home. So the next thing that we feel, meaning us on this end, is we like to see more live communication. We've got the technology available. We love to be able to see us show your dogs in your facility. And we'll talk to you about that at some other time. But that's
Okay.
just my suggestion right now. Form teams of foster parents that have leadership capabilities to manage the fosters homes.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. And I think, the world is our oyster right now, and we have the opportunities to make all these changes. We have the flexibility with being, technically closed to the public, but still offering some of these services. So there's a lot of things that we can work on right now. And it's a really exciting time because.
And what we found is that our city is fairly large. We found that having 1,250 animals in foster and being able to provide that support was going to be difficult. So that's what we did is we developed teams by area of town. And so we have team leaders in each area of town for the foster groups. And what that team leader is doing is ensuring that all the fosters in their area of town have all the supplies they need, have all the vaccines they need, any training they need, and have the training on adopting out their pet. And that's really our next step is what's happening. That's actually those team leads start on Monday out in their little sides of town. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it and what leadership comes out of it from our community and how we can expand, like you said, and have the community lead these fosters.
Mm-hmm. And they will. They seriously will, because there's something about being a foster. Your dog is going to be the leader because you want to show. Look how much he's changed. Look he loves the pillow. He's not eating the sofa anymore. Yeah. He's not doing, and he's so happy because you take a dog out of a shelter and they're down and out and they're feeling really. And by the time a couple days later, when they realize, I'm not in the shelter anymore. Oh, I have a yard I can play with. Oh, I have another dog to play with. So they get so excited over that. So I think the story from the foster home is where the real stories are of success.
And we have a foster, like a Facebook page. So Michelle and I are both on it. So we watch those stories like every day, and it's just. And sometimes when things are really sad in the news and stuff, I pull up that foster Facebook page just to get a little
yeah.
It's just amazing what's happening out there. There's a lot of good in El Paso happening out there with our fosters.
Yeah. And Gaetan, this is your question here.
Yeah, what is the support you provide? You mentioned few of the element of the support you provide to foster home. So somebody get the dog, foster the dog, and what's the next step? What is the support they can receive from you?
So we provide the food and supplies and medical care for our fosters. And we have also just recently created a adult dog foster orientation that's online. We were noticing that some of our new fosters that have never fostered before, never really been involved with our organization, never volunteered or anything like that. There were a lot of not necessarily issues, but things kind of arising because they just didn't know. They didn't have the background. Like they didn't know what decompression stage was or anything like that. So this adult dog training has kind of explained what decompression is, allowing your foster dog, they've been in the shelter for weeks, sometimes months, so they need some time alone to decompress from the shelter, explaining, body language, how to introduce your pet properly, stuff like that, to help those fosters that are brand new, or even ones that have pets but not necessarily a shelter pet, to kind of implement a foster pet into their home. So we've been started offering that training to our fosters, and then we also have a neonatal training as well that's online for anyone taking neonatal puppies or kittens. So, and then we're just continuing to, get feedback from our fosters. What else do they need? Of course, we have our foster team that offers, support through, phone, text message. We have a foster Facebook group that some of our, senior resident fosters are on, and they also offer that support as well. If anyone posts a question on that foster Facebook group, that's even after hours, and it might not be emergent, but, they want an answer to, we have our fosters that are able to answer those questions. So there's a lot of different avenues that they can get support. And then also our foster page on our website has a lot of links to support as well.
That's fantastic. So they are not left alone and they say, okay, here's the dog, deal with it. Bye.
Yeah.
So we're trying to implement new stuff every day to try and give our fosters, the right support and access to information so that they can keep the foster pet and find it a forever home.
And
Well, here, go ahead.
one of the good things too is that these teams that are on the different areas of town, they also, the team has a vet tech, so they get that support. If they have questions, medical questions from the vet tech that's assigned on that team. So I mean, we're continuously finding new ways to help support them, because if we didn't have them, they'd be at the shelter and we'd be doing it anyway.
Mhm.
I have two more suggestions for you.
All right.
One is add an additional component to your training for behavioral issues, like Roman. Roman is an excellent behavior trainer, so that he does mostly all online training, so the fosters could have access to that. Put that as a link on your page. And in addition to that, there's two apps. One is called Babble Bark, if you haven't heard of it. Have you heard of Babble Bark?
I have not.
I haven't.
Okay, I'll let you get in contact with them. It's a free app that will form the community for not only those that adopt from you and the fosters, but also it's an app that brings together your vets, the businesses in the area, the community. It's more like a next door app for pets,
Oh, okay.
but it's free. It's free. And the other one is called Pet Notify. So I'll send you the links to both of those, and that's for everybody. I think they all should do that. I'll actually type it in so that we'll all have it here. Those would be great, because if you want to give resources to the fosters to have available at all times, then this is a great thing, because you can put it in as an added value to fostering.
Definitely. And we also use the Maddie's Pet Assistant too. And then we have a training and enrichment team on staff here that also offers support as well. But any support is great support for our fosters. If they need any help, we definitely want to give it to them. So
Right. Yeah.
Thank
So you
you.
might want to have a directory of support services for fosters.
yes, definitely.
Okay. I'm just full of suggestions.
Awesome.
We love it.
I have one more question. Just a heads up, Michelle is the public affairs coordinator for Paso Animal Services. So I was wondering, how can a small shelter, I mean, you guys are very big and you have those technical support. How can a small shelter finance the foster system from your experience? Are there some numbers available that the shelter would ask you, how much would it cost to put per dog into the foster system?
I mean, we're a fairly large shelter, but we still rely heavily on our community to provide support for that foster program. And we do that through our Amazon wish list. We have an Amazon wish list that we promote regularly on social media that people can donate items for. And the majority of those items go to our foster program to help support that, either our foster program or some of our other life-saving programs here at the shelter. But we rely heavily on that Amazon wish list, and it's free to join. Anyone can set it up. It's really easy, and then just share it on social media. It doesn't really cost anything, and that's been another big push that we've been putting out recently, is donating to our Amazon wish list, because sending out 1,200 animals to foster is having us go through a lot of supplies. So
Yeah.
we're really in need of donations and are always asking for them. And we've been having boxes and boxes and boxes. I'm sure the UPS driver loves us.
Yeah.
But we're keeping them in business with all those Amazon boxes.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
Whoops. I'm sorry.
How are the local businesses supporting that system? Do you guys have technical support from local businesses? Did you reach out in person to those businesses?
We don't really, we haven't really reached out specifically. Since we're a municipal shelter, it's a little bit harder to donate, but we do have some, local hotels and stuff that have donated like blankets and towels, and they have always been a great support for us even before
Almost
all of this.
recycling, right?
Yeah.
Hotels recycle those.
We've had even like a Goodwill bring a huge donation of blankets and towels when they were like clearing out their inventory, stuff like that. So, I mean, but for nonprofit organizations, they have that tie to, their local community and can accept monetary donations or in-kind donations of that sort. So, I mean, definitely reaching out to those resources as well.
Are there any suggestions you would say these communities should do to get support for the first hit? Like any ideas that they should follow? Do you guys offer classes for those who have no clue?
So we've actually been transitioning our education program online. We had recently hired a educator to facilitate day camps and educational programs, stuff for the community. But then this hit, and we're not really doing anything out in the community right now. So our educator has actually transitioned her curriculum online. She's reached out to local teachers that are hosting Zoom classrooms and offering humane education curriculum for that. We're also doing Facebook Lives. We created a character called Cat Lady Bertha, who has been doing Facebook Lives on how to create dog and cat enrichment at home, how to read to your cat. She's been having story time online, stuff like that. So we've been transitioning all of our education online and, figuring out more ways to do that too. So, use social media for your advantage. It's there. Tell your story, because people aren't going to know what you're doing unless you're telling that story, which is why we created that video, to let the community know, hey, we're still adopting, we're still fostering, and we're protecting our staff and you in the meantime. So
it seems to me the dogs basically find the real place in families, being seen seriously as part of the community and families, because I see also, I'm not touching the political aspect, but we see that people who have pets, people who have dogs, and people who have cats are a large community in town. So it would be of interest to have those people on the same page, supporting the system, supporting the community on both sides of the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here I'm going to show your website so that people know that they can go to elpasoanimalservices.org. And is there anything you want to tell them about the website and your Facebook page? And then we're going to say thank you so much.
Visit our website. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we also recently just created a TikTok. So.
TikTok. Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah.
Paula's probably going to be our next star on TikTok. So.
Okay. All right.
Be on the lookout for that.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I'll get you those links and everything, and I'll give you the link to this show, and you'll be able to download it so you can share it on your social media, which we'd appreciate. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Bye. Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.